Welcome to the Help a Polyglot Activist. Learn languages, make a difference. My name is Dr. Carlos Sierra Lopez, and today we're here live from Taipei to discuss what really went down at the Polyglot Conference 2025. First of all, let me thank the organizers from the bottom of my heart, Richard Simcott, Terry, and the whole team. It was an amazing organizational effort and a very successful one. It wasn't easy. A typhoon was forecasted, which eventually did not take place during the conference in Taipei, but it kind of conditioned the whole scheduling and arrangement of excursions, etc. We'll get to it, but first things first. As some of you may know, last year the Polyglot Conference was in Malta, and I had to miss it. Try as I may, I had to miss it due to some red Kafkaesque tape, bureaucratic difficulties, traveling arrangements, etc. So this year I was very much looking for redemption. And so let's break it down. The first day was just language tables and workshops. It was a community day. And so there were workshops on Tamazight, Esperanto, and many other languages, as well as language tables in virtually any language you can imagine. In this case, I participated in the language tables in German, Russian, French, and it was great. I got to meet a lot of new people before the presentations, to interact with them, and I derived a lot of value from the interaction because it allowed me to practice some of the languages I've been focusing the most on this year in a very short period of time and very much in depth. So it was extremely productive. I wish the language tables had stayed for the entirety of the conference so that, for instance, if you would rather practice a language than attending a given presentation, you could do that in parallel rooms. That would have been amazing. Still, a very productive first day. Then the second day featured my presentation, which was about the first Ladino chatbot, Estrellica, which I have discussed in the link that you can click up here. And I discussed in Taipei the 3 development stages of Estrellica, the alpha version, the beta version, and the current stage, which is the release candidate one. I think that the main concepts were clearly explained. The contextualization within revivalistics and Ladino on the internet was clear to everybody. And it was followed by a Q&A of around 10 minutes. The talk itself was TED Talk style, 20 minutes uninterrupted, and then the 10 minutes of the Q&A were off stage. I had around 20 people asking me questions, which was a bit overwhelming, but I tried to do my best since I only had 10 minutes in between presentations to address as many questions as possible. I also took time afterwards outside of the room to follow up on some questions. And I hope everybody was satisfied by the answers that I provided. That was the second day. It was a very intense one. And then the third day, the presentation was already over, so I could just relax and attend presentations that I was interested in, such as those that focus on indigenous languages of Taiwan and Southeast Asia in general. These were amazing, particularly if you are into Austronesian languages, and especially, of course, from Taiwan. This was extremely informative. And then there was a whole subsection of back-to-back presentations concerning AI and language learning. And these were extremely informative. I have to say my favorite presentation was Fabrizio Carrera's one, which was on artificial intelligence and language learning. And he delivered an amazing presentation with extremely well-timed diction and very well-sequenced explanations, as well as informative and accessible content. He discussed, for instance, how to use retrieved augmented generation, how to create podcasts and lyrics with AI applications, and it was really a treat. Other AI presentations were also great, but I felt this one was really the highlight of the conference. Further indigenous languages discussed at the conference included Nahuatl and Purepecha. And with that, the conference came to an end, and the Polyglot Conference 2026 was announced, which will take place in Bologna, Italy, which is a fascinating city, both from an academic perspective in terms of having one of the oldest universities in Europe, and also from a linguistic one, not only because of Italian, but also Bolognese and further world languages that are widely spoken in the city, such as Arabic, Albanian, Chinese, etc. So I'm sure it will be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. If you are in Europe, please do not miss it. It will be in late November. And the Polyglot Gathering was also announced. The next Polyglot Gathering will take place in Brno, Czech Republic, just as the last year. That will be in the very last days of May. After the Polyglot Conference, strictly speaking, was over, there was an additional day of excursions. And this was tricky because, as I said, we were expecting a typhoon, which is extremely rare at this time of the year. There are normally a couple of them in Taiwan throughout the year, but the fact that it could have taken place in November was extremely rare, and so it was unfortunate. But as I said, in the end, it didn't happen, so we were able to proceed with the excursion. Nevertheless, it rained a lot, the wind was very strong, so it was pretty tricky. Still, I very much enjoy it. It was led by Duncan and Lion Travels. I appreciated the fact that he was very polite and he used a lot of Mandarin and English, not just English. So that way I got to practice some of my Chinese. I also had the chance of interacting more closely with fellow attendees of the conference with whom I hadn't spoken during the previous days. And overall, it was a very fulfilling experience. Well, that's it from me. I really enjoyed this year's conference. Taipei is a fascinating city full of amazing people and facts, a lot of Japanese influence as well, I came to find out. And I really recommend that anybody who has the chance of attending the next edition in Bologna does so, because it really helps you connect with the global community of language enthusiasts, and you will always learn a great deal of information and got to practice your favorite languages and perhaps even learn a new one. And as always, thanks for watching from Mandarin Oriental, Taipei.